What's their first right step? What do they need to do to kind of start launching their career and doing it, a different way?
Yeah, what I have seen so much of, Will, honestly, is when people cut out alcohol or whatever your vice is.
Yeah.
Go ahead and bite the bullet and be disciplined with yourself now. You can change things by changing the decisions you make and by being more disciplined. That much for sure. You're going to change the trajectory of your life by being more disciplined.
Like, how did you get your start with kind of where you are now? Because you're doing sales for Waldrop commercial.
Yes.
But what got you into that? Are you a
Into
sales
sales.
guy at heart?
Yeah, I am a sales guy at heart. Yeah, I'm a people person, like we were talking about earlier.
Sure.
I like having conversations with people, and I'm curious.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we think of salespeople as being kind of an aggressive, assertive, kind of a
Right.
pushy type vibe.
Yeah.
But I think there's different styles, and I would say through the years I've learned what works best for me, and it's more of the relationship building, showing interest in other people, being curious in what they do, being genuine in that. But I've found that is probably what works for me. Just using that curiosity and learning about the person, learning about what they do. And that's kind of where my sales comes from. But getting into Waldrop, I've done a variety of different sales jobs, a variety of different industries, worked for a lot of different owners. So it's been a lifelong career in business development.
Sure.
So, yeah.
The business development is super interesting because I always thought I was a terrible salesperson. Like 2 companies in.
Everybody says that.
Right.
I'm a terrible
Yeah, I'm
salesperson.
bad at it. But that's because I wasn't just a smiling and dialing kind of guy. And I didn't
Yeah.
realize that there was more to it than just, trying to qualify someone really quickly, figure out, get to the no, right? And then go somewhere else.
That's
and
right.
it didn't feel real to me. It didn't feel right. Do you think there's still a place for the smiling and dialing type thing? Or is that, there's probably niche places where you need that. But
Yeah.
like, when it comes to business sales, is it more relational, nowadays?
Yeah, I think so. What I have been kind of observing and just being around a lot of different salespeople and even in my own career is that what works, sometimes everybody has different skill sets. Yeah. Some people are great door openers. They're not shy about smiling and dialing or walking in. I call those the tip of the spear people. Because they can create that initial relationship. Most people, once you put them in, if they're good, kind of qualified and know what they're talking about, you can put them in the room with someone and they're good.
Right.
But they need someone to make that introduction, build the bridge, and put them in the room with that person. So that's what, I'm kind of the tip of the spear. That's what I like to do, is open those doors, look for talented, both, the right company, the right person, and put those in the room, and then it's going to work out. It's matchmaking.
You need a community where you can both invest in people and let them invest in you, right?
Yes.
And I think when people get community wrong is where they're like, what can I get from you? I'm here to sell something. Oh, you don't need it? Okay, I'm going to go to the next door.
Yeah.
Whether instead of being like, okay, now how can I help you? Or even saying, how can I help you first before you're asking, for something in return.
Absolutely. So one of the things we're doing, prospecting now is completely different.
Yeah.
I look for ways that we can be of service to facility managers. So one of the podcasts that I do under Masterminds is facility manager focus. So we're talking to facility managers who are deciding on, 10 different contracts where every one of those contracts has a salesperson, has an owner, that has families, and just, if you think about that, so you've got one decision maker that's kind of feeding all these different folks. It's important to have a good relationship with that person. They don't want to make the wrong decision. They want to find good companies. And so that's another thing that if you're playing the network game and you're recommending people, you've got to have good people. Right. Finding the best you can find is, and what does that mean? I think that might be subjective, but for me, it just means the attitude, the vibe. It's kind of your vibe is your tribe.
Oh yeah.
There's some people that are successful that may not be a good fit.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about masterminds like The Energy Bus. If you've ever read that by John Gordon.
I haven't.
One of my favorite books.
Oh man, okay.
Yeah,
It's on my list now.
Yeah, someone sent that to me and they said, Daniel, I think you would enjoy this book. This person never recommended books.
Yeah.
So the fact that he recommended this, I thought, okay, I'll check it out. But it's one of my favorites now. But essentially, this bus has rules, and the cool thing about having something like masterminds, we can come up with the rules for the bus. If you want to be on the bus, these are the rules, and by rules, it's more our attitude, our principles, the things that we stand by. And you know, I used to hear that, and companies put that up on the wall, but it's important, right?
It really is.
Like, who are we?
Yeah.
And who do I want to be part of this? Who do I want to be hanging out with and spending time with? I mean, as you get older, you realize you got limited time.
Right.
So you need the right people, and so it's been fun. But that's kind of how I'm forming it, is thinking about those types of things.
Yeah. Networking can be terrifying for so many people. And, you know, believe it or not, I'm a recovering introvert, you know, and just wanting to go to networking events, but then not even knowing how to do it right, you know. And then, so you got people like me who struggle to be wallflowers, right? And then you have people on the other end maybe who are maybe too like out there.
Yeah,
and so
right.
What are the mistakes that people make with networking that you've seen that they can do better? And then on the other side, you know, who are some of the best networkers that you've met?
Yeah,
what have they done
that's
right?
a great question. I think the number one thing to remember when you're walking into a networking event is that clarity of your message and what you do is super important.
Yes.
Not what people think, how smart you are, or how whatever.
Yeah.
You want to communicate in as simple and elementary terms as possible. When they walk away, if someone asks them, what does that person do? If you can't answer that, if that person can't answer it, then you haven't done a good job networking.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that being said, you also don't want to be all about your company, but we don't have to overdo that. We just have to, in our minds, in my mind, be attentive to the other, more interested than interesting. I mean, that's the line.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, and if we just do that, people will notice because it's so rare.
Yeah.
So rare.
It really is.
So
It really is. One of those things I found is super successful for me is when I'm meeting with somebody, or I meet somebody in an event, I will, you know, try to learn more about them, not really talk about myself any, you know, just strike up and see if the vibe's right, see if like the energy, you know, vibrations are all there.
Yeah.
And then get their card, and then I go deep, like in a coffee meeting or something like that, like in a follow up. It's amazing how many people will follow up with you and want to meet with you if you follow up.
Absolutely. One of the things that I did at a time when I was trying to, so I'm coming up on 10 years of personal development.
Nice.
So 11/11/2014 is when I kind of said, hey, we're gonna do all the things. You go into Barnes and Noble, you see the personal development, all the things in all the books, right? That's what I was doing, but it's been a progression over those 10 years, but forgot exactly where I was going with that.
We're talking about the meeting with people in a coffee shop after you meet with them here, then going deep.
Yes, and so that's the thing. Looking for the people that are in, knowing what your vibe is, your tribe. Not spending. You're wasting your time. Just like if you're in sales, not spending time. This is not a customer. This is not a fit.
Yeah.
So you meet people and you learn that. You learn when to go deeper.
Yeah.
And when not to.
Yeah. And you never know who you're quite talking to. It's amazing.
No.
You know.
Oh,
I mean,
here's a great tip. Here's a great tip. Just know that everybody you're talking to is really good at something.
Yeah.
You know, you whatever it is that's in your mind, and you know, they are good at something. Human beings are amazing.
Yes.
And you just don't know what it is until you find out. So if you make that the game, if you hit on their dink.
Yeah.
Then that's a great networking game to play to find, because then you're paying attention to other people.
Yeah, for sure. What's your thing? What's your thing that you're like so good at, like better than 95% of the rest of the world?
I think it's being able to, you know, if I'm watching something back, or I can be critical of myself, but in the moment, like when me and you talking here, I can go into the moment and not think about other stuff.
I love that.
You know, and now when I look back, I'm like, why did I say that, or why did I do that?
Everybody does.
But I think it comes from practice, number one, and knowing that I'm going to have that feeling, but I just need to snap it off. And the best thing that I can do is be very present.
Yes.
And just pay attention, and whatever happens, happen. I mean, what's my strength? It's calling myself the average dude, right? That's the reality. That's the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
But it also gives me a certain amount of freedom to kind of follow my passions and curiosities.
Yeah.
So it gives me some freedom.
Yeah, I love when I first saw your LinkedIn. What really struck me as just odd.
Yeah,
it was really,
it's odd.
It was great. The average dude thing was interesting, and then your pronouns were dude and dude. I thought, okay, I got to meet this guy. That's why I sent you a LinkedIn message. I was like, hey, dude,
Well, and speaking of that, we connected, and the first time I came in here, you and I had a great conversation. Yeah. Here we are doing a podcast. We did an event here. Yeah. That was unbelievable. I mean, getting to come in and use equipment like this and meeting people that are good people. You're trying to amplify the voices of people doing good. So that's what it's all about.
It really is.
I mean, so that's why people say, well, are you trying to monetize this, or when are you going to niche down and all these? For me, it's already successful. Right. I mean, it's I'm enjoying it. It gives me things to do. I think things will come. Yeah. I'm not in a hurry. I don't have to I don't have to step on every dollar that floats by.
Right, sure.
I don't, when I was looking for sponsors for my first podcast, I said, if I can't get the sponsors that I really believe in, then I'm not going to have a sponsor.
So good.
And we'll just do it without it.
Yeah.
So I hope it works out, but if it doesn't, and I was able to tell my sponsors that too. Look, I want you guys, but if you don't want to do it, I'm not going to take, it's hard to get passionate about somebody that, he was willing to give me the money. I don't even know what he does,
Right.
So it's just better for me, I like to really believe in the people and the products that I'm pitching.
Yeah. Simon Sinek has a great book called Infinite Game. You may have read it, but
I've heard of that. Tell me about that philosophy, though, so you remind me of.
Yeah, it's like with a football game, for instance, we know how long a quarter is. We know the rules of the game. We know what scoring is. You kick it through the thing and you get 3 points, and your guy runs it through, you get 7. And like all this whole thing, we know the score, right?
Yes.
And at the end, there's a winner and loser, right? Somebody's mad, somebody's excited.
Yeah.
That's the end.
Yeah.
But with business and with life and with relationships, it's an infinite game.
Yes.
Right? It never ends.
Yeah.
And the rules are whatever you want it to be. And it seems like people sometimes equate money with the rules because there's a number attached to it, right?
That's right.
If I have more zeros than you, I must be winning, right? But I may be miserable. Everybody hates me, and my dog don't even come up to me and let me pet him.
Yes.
But I have more zeros than you. So am I really winning?
That no doubt about it. Yeah, I love that philosophy, and I love that kind of thinking because, there's an ebb and flow to all of our lives, and I think that, or in a marathon or any of these road races, you get the weekend warriors and people that don't necessarily run. Some people start out fast, some people stay out slow, but that changes throughout the race, maybe several times,
right.
And that's the way life is. And we're really, at the end of the day, everybody goes under the finish lines. You just want to be happy when you finish.
Right. Right.
I mean, and run your best race.
Yeah.
I always say, run your race, run your pace. Don't worry if you've started out slow, because you might be the one sprinting through the finish.
Yeah. It's so true.
So, and oh man, I'm behind. Well, all that means is you get to have that. When everybody else is struggling at the end, maybe you're running fast.
Yeah. And the question is, behind it what? Because it's like, what are you behind it? And we sometimes fight this battle that we don't need to fight, of just like, I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time, doing the wrong things, and really at least me, I was like, you just get you get worried, and it's usually at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's not ever in the full light of day with friends.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who has a couple businesses. They're good businesses. They make enough money, and he makes enough to pay his bills, and he's done. He's fine. He's not doing anymore.
Yeah.
And he's like, I like playing games with my kids. I like going home and playing with my kids. And it's like, he's winning, right?
Yes.
Does he have enough zeros for the world? Who knows? Probably not, right? But but that's winning for him. I had to do something where I made a list of what is winning for me. And what is it when this company wins? For me, it's doing meaningful work with people I respect. And so that's
there you
that's
go.
it,
Yeah,
you know?
you define your rules.
Yeah.
And you can win. I always say you can be losing every game, but you got to be winning your game.
Yes.
Whatever your game is,
Yeah.
as long as you're winning that, you're a winner.
Yeah.
But you cannot lose your game.
Yeah.
You have to have a game. You have to know what that game is, and you can't be losing it.
Yes.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
And that for me goes into a granular type of the behaviors, the habits. I say this is on track, this is off.
Yeah.
I know I'm off track because it's like 85. I know immediately.
Right.
It's like that's danger.
Yep.
There's trees right after that thumping sound.
I should probably stop texting, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oops. Yes, but I think another thing that I've been thinking about, and this made me think about it, is we hear not to compare ourselves to others.
Right.
And that's true if we compare in a way where we feel bad about ourselves or feel less than. But it's very super important to know exactly where our strengths are, where our talents are, where we are with those skills, what else is out there. Otherwise, we want to know. It's important to know where those skills are.
Right.
Because I have kind of fooled myself by not understanding where you are. So it's important to understand, as long as it's not in a way of making you feel less than,
Right.
because ultimately the truth of who we are is the most powerful state.
Yes.
So whatever
So
it is
true.
you are, embrace that and realize that everybody is comparing different things at different times.
Yes.
And I think about Madden football. You've got all these attributes, 0 to 99, right? And they rank them, but everybody's got strengths and weaknesses, and it just so happens that this game of football is going to reward some of the taller bars. Yep. But those are your stars, and these are your role players. Is there really any difference? And no,
Right.
it's just where the metrics are.
Right.
Right. So the comparison is just a way to understand your skills set,
Yep.
and then to create the game that fits that.
Yes, and then operating within your genius, like
Yes.
Pat Lencioni said with Working Genius, there's things you're good at.
Yeah.
There's things that are frustrations.
Yes.
Why live in the frustration world?
Right.
Trying to strengthen that muscle.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. If we're all 99s, to use your example with Madden.
Yeah.
You're a superhuman. You're Superman. But
Right.
you got big tubs of lard that are right in the front lines, and you want them to be heavy and slow.
That's
right?
it. Yes.
And and somebody plays that role, and other people play other roles. It doesn't change anything. But
Yeah.
if you're trying to be something you're not,
That's right.
it's frustration, right?
You put Tom Brady anywhere but quarterback. I mean, he's not the most athletic son of a gun, but he's an amazing, at what he does, the poise, and you've got 11 guys coming at you, and you can't put anybody else in that position.
Sure.
So I think that there is some. As I've gotten older, I've really realized that that's the key. Like to really just understand where your strength. Be honest with yourself. The truth's gonna hurt.
Yep.
But it's gonna set you free.
And being comfortable, like once you learn, just be like, okay, I'm okay with me.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Whatever this is,
Yeah, I'm an average dude. I can't change it, but I can have a lot of fun.
So what made you come up with the title of Average Dude? Like why Average Dude? When did that start?
Yeah. So it started when I did my first podcast. Somebody said you ought to do a podcast, and so I said, yeah, I think I do want to do a podcast because I've always liked talking to people.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, what am I going to call it? And somebody earlier that day had called me an average dude. He's like, you're just like the average dude. And it kind of, I didn't really like it. Nobody wants to be average necessarily. But we
My mama says
we
I'm
kind of are.
special. Right.
Yeah. My mom, she hung up every picture, Will. Every single picture I drew. It's unbelievable. But I said to myself, I'm not average because we're all unique. We have different ways. I do have different ways of looking at things, and I don't, people will ask me pop culture questions and they're like, do you live in the United States? And what do you do? Because I'm terrible with pop culture. I just don't spend my time doing it. So there's unique things about me, but when it comes to these measurables, these metrics, I'm definitely, and most of them, I'm hoping to be average,
Right.
For me, the average dude, and I wouldn't have it any other way, but it just means a lot of different things. It kind of, it's a differentiator because none of us want to say that we're average,
Right.
but it's also just something, and it's a reminder for me that that's the reality of the situation, you know?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So you were talking, you briefly hit on November 11th, 2014.
Yeah.
The 11/11/14, what were the things in your life that made you, or what did you decide to change in your life to be?
Oh, wow. Yeah, everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there will be a time when I will talk about pre-11/11/14.
Yeah.
But basically, on that date, I didn't have any plan to start a personal development journey. I had no idea that 11/11 was like this. I guess that's a number that means something, but I didn't know that at the time. And I'm not saying that it does now. I'm just saying.
Sure.
But so that day, actually, a LinkedIn life coach. So this was back in. I wasn't doing anything on LinkedIn. I wasn't even sure how this particular life coach or whatever, and I kind of rolled my eyes at that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I didn't have any interest in talking to her. She stayed on me, Will, and I took the call on 11/11/14 in the evening. I didn't even know why I was doing it. And she said something to me that had not been said up to that point. And I realized things about myself. I realized where I was playing the victim in some ways, and how I was giving up, how I wasn't giving effort to overcome, but I was allowing all that had happened and all that I thought had happened in my mind at that time to own me, to basically have given up to, and she said, well, if you wanted to, could you do something about it? And even when I say that to this day, I get chills. It's like, I stood up and I said, yeah, I could actually. And she said, well, what would you do if you were going to, start making changes in your life? I said, well, I need to go exercise and work out. When would you do it? I'd probably do it in the morning. When would you go? I'd need to go early before work. Are you going tomorrow? I'm going tomorrow. So that's how it started. And exercise is just a great way. It's not fun. Nobody enjoys doing it. Nobody enjoyed getting up early, but it was that cranking up on the discipline for me. I did the meditation. I read the personal development books. I was taking cold showers before cold showers were cool. I mean, but I like those things where our mind is telling us to do one thing. We don't have to listen to the mind. We're in control. Yeah. And that discipline and control of myself is really what I learned on 11/11/14, and to always have that path of my job is to overcome. It's not to have a good story of why I wasn't able to.
That's powerful.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was that day, and again, I'm coming up in November. And it's not like 11, this is one thing I would say too, 11/11/14, everything's been perfect, including me, my decision making. I have been spotless. No, it has been, it will always be, get back on track, right? I mean, you're always going to have to say, to man up, and I'm hearing those bumps. I'm not going to ignore these warning signs. And I'm going to do something that's hard that I don't want to do to get myself back in. For me, that's what works.
That's so good.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much the physical and the mental are tied together. Depression, anxiety, so much. I'm not a doctor or son of a doctor, but from what I've read and everything that I've heard, there's so much that's tied into that, of just the power of movement. Yes. And overcoming your mental roadblocks to not exercise or whatever it is. And that trickles down to help you in so many other ways.
It does, Will. And the other thing I would say, so I started doing the Toastmasters, and I started doing things that were uncomfortable. We always hear uncomfortable, but there will come a point when that uncomfortable feeling is that's my adrenaline now. Right. I look for those feelings because that's how I feel good. Yeah. That's where I get my dopamine. Yeah. And when you're doing things like this, or when we did any event, or you're speaking, you have to be in the moment. So it's like I think about these no fear guys doing these things that I could never do, right. But they've got to be so dialed in and in the moment that's it's kind of freeing in that way. You're not thinking about all the things that you could think about. There may not be great feelings and thoughts.
Exactly. What if this chute doesn't open?
Right. Yeah. You just got to be on point.
It's funny how discomfort is my sign that I'm in the right place.
Yes.
If I'm too comfortable,
Yeah.
I don't know. I love a life of ease, and I like being comfortable. And
Yeah.
I know like my baser nature
Yeah.
comes out
Yeah.
whenever I'm not pushing myself and doing things that are hard. If I'm doing things that are hard, I'm getting to the goals that I want. I'm doing meaningful work with people I respect.
Yes.
But if I'm not doing that, then the work isn't coming in. There's so much that just kind of cascades from that. So, what would you say to the mid-20s person, maybe is in that sales position, wants to be doing biz dev? Maybe they've seen a lot of the social media stuff of just like hustle and grind, bro, and like post 20 videos a day and do all that stuff, and dial 100 times and you'll be a millionaire. You can get that Maserati. But who's listening to this and go, man, maybe Daniel has something here. I need to be in communities. I need to be a part of that. What's their first right step? Like you're talking to that coach who said go to the gym tomorrow. For them, what's that first step for them? What do they need to do to kind of start launching their career and doing it, a different way?
So I've met so many young, sharp, good business development people. And I think back to when I was that age, obviously, and how much time I wasted.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, 11, 14 is when I started running. You know what I mean? But what I have seen so much of, Will, honestly, is when people cut out alcohol. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do, but what happens when you get out of college and life starts kind of getting kind of, well, I need something, and it doesn't go well. It drains that energy that is going to be what you're going to need to make the connections and to really differentiate yourself. Go to a networking event and watch everybody run for the bar, and you don't run for the bar, but you feel good. You've been drinking water, you've been exercising, you're going to differentiate yourself. I mean, I don't think if you start being disciplined, and I'm not like, if you just control it, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And it's just so easy to get into, or whatever your vice is. Look at those vices. Go ahead and bite the bullet and be disciplined with yourself now. And maybe life is not going like you thought it would go, but you can change things by changing the decisions you make and by being more disciplined. That much for sure. You're going to change the trajectory of your life by being more disciplined.
So true.
So I wish that I could go back and shake myself, slap myself silly.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
And just because I'm happier now. I mean, I haven't been this happy in my life. You understand? So it's like you're not going to be missing out. You're going to be putting yourself in a position to do well.
What are the main places that if someone wanted to learn more about the mastermind, they went to podcasts, all these things that go on?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, Daniel Allison, The Average Dude, that's where it all started out. And I say started out, it's pretty much still where it is. It started out there, it's still there. No, but I've got the Manufacturing Masterminds page as well. So I'm doing content. And what I'm doing with that, it's going to have several different podcasts under the Manufacturing or Masterminds umbrella.
Love that.
So and I'm talking to some other folks that will join as hosts, and they will have their own kind of stream their own things. And so we've got some exciting things planned on that, and we'll niche down with each podcast under that. But again, just point to point. And I'm digressing here, and I'm sorry.
Do it, man.
Yeah.
Go.
But I love looking and following that flow again from that economic development, construction, and manufacturing. And when I started looking at that and how that, so we've got a lot of plans. There's a lot of content in all of that, right?
Oh, man, that's so cool.
Yeah,
so mainly what I'm hearing is LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Go to
Just
LinkedIn.
Search for you.
Go to LinkedIn, Daniel Allison, The Average Dude. I'm also loading up content to my Manufacturing Masterminds YouTube page. So my game plan right now is LinkedIn and YouTube. Focus on those. So most of my content will be in those boxes.
It's a great strategy, man.
I need to wrap my head around that and what works there.
Yes.
Instead of just trying to touch every button and opening more apps. And
that's a great way to not do anything.
As we were talking about earlier, I need a systems guy. If there's a systems guy out there, please. But I say that, but then again, I so much don't like repeating the same task.
Right.
I like doing new things.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it all goes.
I love that, man. That's so cool. Okay, last question for you. What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
The thing that someone said to me that meant the most, he said, Daniel, the thing about you is you never quit. That was the greatest compliment that someone gave to me. And here's the thing, it wasn't true. I have quit. You know,
Right.
I have quit. And when this person said that to me, I almost said, oh, but I do
Right.
quit. And I realized if I say that, then I am guaranteeing that I will. But if I just take this compliment and I say, I never quit, then when I hear that tung, 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 I'm always going to get back on.
Love that.
You know, so when he said that to me, I felt that tung, tung, tung. And he said, Daniel, you never quit. And I was almost said, and that would have given me permission to hit a tree. Get back on the doggone road, man. You know? Yeah. So he that was huge. And I would say when someone gives you a compliment like that, just take it and own it and make that your new identity.
Yes.
I have quit before, but I never quit now.
Oh, I love that. That's so good. Man, it's been great chatting with you.
This has been fun.
The best.
From the first time we've met, I think so. It's been a great connection. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, same here, man. Always enjoy it.
Yeah.
When's the last time you saw a monkey?
Last time I saw a monkey live and in person, I wish I had I always wanted a pet monkey when I was younger.
I know.
I don't know, you know, it's like a dude, it's like a mini average dude monkey.
That's what you need. That'd be your next stick.
They may kick me out of town. I mean, Daniel's got a monkey downtown.
I'd be like, why y'all kicking Daniel out of town? He's like, he's got a monkey. I'm like, okay, go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah, he's lost it. It's a fish.